The news day continues here on One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. A 5.4 magnitude quake rocked Davao Oriental at around 8 this morning. The earthquake was located 37 kilometers southeast of the town of Governor Generoso, which felt an intensity 5 tremor. The tremor was also felt in Mati City, Tampakan, and Tubi in South Cotabato, Davao City, General Santos City, Kidapawan City, and Sarangani. It was tectonic in origin with a depth of 42 kilometers. FIVOX expects damage and aftershocks from the quake. The government has once again opened the Dolomite beach in Ross Boulevard to the public for a short time. To tell us more, we have Camille Samonte reporting live from Ross Boulevard in Manila. Camille, give us the latest situation, please.
Riza, many families and group of friends flocked to the Manila Bay Dolomite Beach this Sunday after the Environmental and Natural Resources reopened it to the public. The public can enter the artificial beach from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. and up to only 120 people every 5 minutes are allowed inside the Phase 1 premises. The Dolomite Beach can only be accessed by the public until Tuesday. Senior citizens and minors with adult companions will be permitted to enter, but eating, drinking, and picking up Dolomite sand in the vicinity are strictly prohibited. Marshals and police authorities are also stationed in the area to remind the public to follow the health protocols. But few hours later, a heavy rain struck the Manila Bay and the crowd immediately ran to take shelter in some tents. When the rain had stopped, authorities resumed in letting the public in. Some parents took advantage of the new IATF policy and brought their kids to stroll. Here's what they have to say.
Matagal na pero bawal. Pero nagbabawal, di ba? Kaya ngayon lang talaga kami nakapasok.
Dinaya po talaga namin, galing kami ng Luneta Park kasi nabalitaan po namin na pwede nang ilabas yung bata. So pinasyal yung anak namin.
Riza, based on the crowd estimate of the authorities, around 1,700 visited the Dolomite Beach from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. After the 3-day public viewing, the DNR will assess if they will have the artificial beach open again. The agency aims to finish its second phase of by October of this year. Riza?
Thank you. That was Camille Samonte reporting live from Manila. Meanwhile, PNP Chief Guillermo Elizar urges the public to be extra cautious with the detection of local cases of the more infectious Delta variant in the country. Elizar said that the detection of the Delta variant serves as a warning to everyone against complacency. For their part, the PNP vows to continue its mandate to enforce health and safety protocols to prevent the spread of the virus. So far, 35 local cases of the Delta variant have been detected in the Philippines.
Again, the success and failure of our effort to prevent the spread of this more transmissible and more deadly variant is on our hands by strictly observing the tried and tested observance of the minimum public health safety protocol.
A vaccine expert says systematic data on vaccine effectiveness and real-world evidence are needed to overcome the pandemic. This as Southeast Asia reels from the Delta variant. Let's listen in.
Data needs change over time. So in the beginning, we needed to know whether the vaccines worked. And we have ample evidence that all of the currently WHO-approved vaccines are safe and efficacious. Now what we need is data on real-world evidence. How do these vaccines now work when we roll them out in millions and millions of people? And unfortunately, we have pretty good data on Pfizer. We have reasonable data on Moderna. We have a lot of data on AstraZeneca that actually the 2 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine really have effectiveness in preventing severe disease, hospitalization, and death that's in the 80% range or above 80%. So really, really good data. The Chinese vaccines, Sinopharm and Sinovac, again, when you look at effectiveness, does the vaccine prevent severe infection, hospitalization, and death? we're seeing reports of, sometimes over 90%. So again, we have to make sure that when we hear about reports of infections in people who've been vaccinated, that we really stop and say, now, are these reports, or is this a systematically collected data that is giving us the kind of information that governments need in order to change policy?
And I guess in some cases, social media may not even help, because you do get a lot of this information unfiltered in some cases, of course, coming through. So we have enough data as far as, I guess, the efficacy is concerned. The other big issue seems to be still supply and the bottlenecks. And people seem to think that when you talk about supply constraints, it's just in creating the vaccine itself. It's putting the vaccine into vials, it's delivering that. Where do you see the bottlenecks still at this point in time?
So, and just to make the point, as you did in the beginning, we've given 3.5 billion doses of these vaccines in, 9 months. That's remarkable. I mean, flu vaccine, which is used globally around the world every year, 400 to 500 million doses maximum. So we've given 3.5 billion doses, and that's put a lot of stress. So the companies are trying to make new deals to get other contract manufacturers of high quality. We're trying to secure additional supplies of things like vials and stoppers in order to bottle the vaccines. But there are going to be delays as new vaccines are brought online, as you scale up from low rate initial production to your standard rate of production that and that process takes months. At the same time, there are some other things that are potentially concerning. Those Chinese vaccines were approved in the end of last year, beginning of this year. It took until May for the WHO to go through very carefully all the data that was found for those that they had for those vaccines, and it was approved at the end of May. Now it's taken 6.5 weeks to get the contracts in place to get those vaccines into COVAX. And so it's not that people aren't hurrying, but there are processes, and we're doing this for the first time. So the more efficient we can be at getting rid of all these little things that we really could anticipate, the more important, or the more quickly we'll be able to get the vaccine out. But then the final part here is, and just take the United States as an example, the birth cohort, the number of births per year in the United States is usually around 4 million. And that's the group that normally gets vaccinated, right? I mean, most children get all the childhood vaccines, and that's the biggest group of people who are vaccinated. The United States population is about 330 million. So imagine going from 4 million to 330 million. It was hard in the United States. But can you imagine when we start doing this in low and middle income countries?
Jerome?
When we stop. Yes, sorry.
I just want to move things on a little bit, because why is the international community not getting together and coming up with some sort of vaccine passport? I mean, why aren't people who are vaccinated not allowed to travel freely, I suppose? Is it a case of the fact that you can actually carry the vaccine still, even though you have been inoculated, or is it that they just don't trust these vaccines?
I think it's in part that in order to have vaccine passports, you have to have agreement between countries that they will cross-recognize the different vaccines, and that's not always the case. For instance, in Korea, you have to be vaccinated with a vaccine that the Korean government has approved. So will they take Sinopharm or Sinovac vaccine as proof? So there are a lot of individual issues that keep countries from setting up the kinds of systems that are necessary in order to cross-recognize each other's vaccination certificates. So, for instance, if you want to go from the United States to Korea, you actually have to send in your vaccination certificates to a Korean consulate. It has to be reviewed, and then potentially an exemption is granted. So this is a individual process, and until we can standardize it, move it along quickly, it's going to be a rather difficult thing to accomplish.
Now, back here in the home front, Taguig City made COVID-19 vaccination more accessible and convenient for those with disabilities in time for the observance of PWD Week. Ryan Ang has the rest of the story.
The city government of Taguig has allotted a place and time specifically for persons with disability to receive their COVID-19 vaccines. More than 300 PWDs were inoculated at Mercado del Lago Hall in Taguig City on Saturday. The LGU was also reserved service vehicles to fetch and bring them back to their respective barangays after the vaccination. They were also given health kits, which contains vitamins, medicines, alcohol, and face masks.
So most of them hirap pumila, mahirap umalis sa bahay. So, nag-allot kami na special place, tsaka special time para sunduin namin sila sa mga bahay nila. Hatid natin dito, tapos para hindi na sila mahirapang pumila, per barangay may oras po silang allotted. Sinadya po namin na malaki po yung time na inalat namin per barangay sa maliit na number of persons para as much as possible maging convenient para sa kanila yung pagpabakuna.
Although Taguig already has a list of PWDs in their city, those who may not be included may still walk in.
Kasi nag-announce po kami sa social media account namin na paminsan po merong pumupunta na PWDs na wala sa listahan. As much as possible, ina-accommodate din po namin sila.
Vanjila Ganlan, a mother of a PWD who has a hearing impairment, said they both stayed at home for more than a year due to COVID-19 fear. But because of the LGU's initiative, her son has finally received his vaccine. She said they felt safe because they did not have to fall in line and the area was well ventilated.
As a ma'am po, malaking tulong po kasi hindi po kami lumalabas. Ngayon lang po. Saka laking opportunity po na mayroong ganitong project.
Bakit ito? Gano'ng kabilis? Mabilis ba? Hindi gano'n kasi...
Mabilis lang po eh. Kasi kahapon tumawag sila and then kinamagahan ito na po.
Other PWDs are also thanking the Taguig LGU.
Mabilis lang po. Parang pumikit ka lang saglit tapos na.
Pero yung pila po, wala namang pila.
Wala naman po. Tuloy-tuloy naman po.
The local government said they also have existing special lanes for PWDs in other vaccination sites across the city. For News 5, Ryan Ang, we are One News.
Tropical storm Fabian maintains its strength as it moves slowly over the Philippine Sea. To tell us the latest, we have Pag-asa weather forecaster Chris Perez. Sir Chris, good afternoon. Can you tell us where Tropical storm Fabian currently is located?
Good afternoon. So far, the center of Tropical Storm Fabian is still over the Philippine Sea. And as of 10 a.m., it was estimated at about 1,100 kilometers east-northeast of extreme northern Luzon. Fabian has a maximum sustained winds of about 65 kilometers per hour near the center and gustiness of up to 80 kilometers per hour. It is forecast to move north-northwest at about 5 kilometers per hour. It is not expected to make landfall over any part of the country, and it is expected to exit the northern boundary of the area of responsibility by Tuesday morning. However, this particular tropical storm and another low pressure area over the West Philippine Sea are currently enhancing the habagat or the southwest monsoon. The reason why there are rains over the western section of central and southern Luzon, particularly over the provinces of Zambales, Bataan, Occidental Mindoro, and Palawan. Residents of these areas are advised to be alert against possible flash floods and landslide. Meanwhile, back to Tropical Storm Fabian, we will continue to monitor this particular weather disturbance and continue to provide 6-hourly update. The next weather bulletin will be issued at 5 p.m. this afternoon. And that's the latest here at the Pag-asa Weather Forecasting Center. I'm Chris Perez reporting for One News.
Thank you. That's Pag-asa weather forecaster Chris Perez. Widespread misinformation on COVID-19 is killing people, according to U.S. President Joe Biden. COVID-19 cases have been increasing in the last few weeks, and the virus variants are causing hospitalization and deaths. While cases are no longer high enough to cause a national emergency, U.S. officials say infections are now localized in areas where there is vaccine hesitancy, caused primarily by misinformation found online. And Biden says this misinformation is killing people.
The only pandemic we have is among the unvaccinated, and they're killing people.
And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us later at 2:15 in the afternoon as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Riza Diaz. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.